It's Nick Rekieta.
Hey, what's up?
Oh my, what's new?
Nothing. Everything is just the same.
It's been
Except
a
you had a
minute.
baby. Like, that's cool.
I have a baby. The biggest surprise about having a baby is how not quickly you snap back, because not to talk about breastfeeding again, but if you are breastfeeding, your body basically wants you to stay fat like a cow so that you can make milk for the bean.
Oh, don't talk about this, Chrissy. Trust me. If you talk about the realities of childbirth and like what it does, people will assume you hate yourself.
But that doesn't mean I'm not going to try. I'm not going to try to get back. I
You'll
will.
probably succeed.
And
It's
you know
like
why?
how it
'Cause
goes.
there's far too many bins of pre-baby clothes that I go, "Ugh, you really gonna turn your back on all those clothes? Like all those the clothes you spent years accumulating, you know?" Ugh. And you know what? I was a fat person. I was kind of a fat person in college. So I think anyone who was ever fat in their lives, you remember that. It's like it's memory hold. It's like an old trauma, and you're like, "Oh, I don't wanna go back
Like
there."
your heart aches, but it's from grease that's left over. It's like, oh God, yeah, I used to be this.
You say hard eggs?
No, your heart aches.
Oh,
Not your
okay.
hard eggs. Yeah.
I was like, "My
Yes.
eggs are fine, Nick, clearly."
Prove it. Prove it again.
Oh, boy. Oh my goodness. Now it's hot down here in the basement, but if I take my sweatshirt off, it's like I wasn't prepared for I'll just do an off the shoulder moment. Anyway, Nick, so you've had, quite a bit of drama in your life last couple of months,
Nah.
but you look great.
Thanks. Yeah, except for like I got the hobo beard going. I was gonna trim that, but I'm lazy. No, it's yeah, it's been interesting. It's been a nice firsthand tour through the criminal justice system, which is always fun to make a pit stop by what you're commenting on. It's like,
But how do you feel like your law background actually prepared you for this?
oh God. Well, I mean, for one thing, hmm, sorry, I'm out of Coke, so I'm just drinking tea. Um, for one thing, the hearings and shit like that, like you have a basic understanding of what's going on. A lot of people, when you get arrested and you go in for your first appearance, for example, they don't know what's going to happen. They freak out. One of the things for us was I got arrested with two other people. Obviously, I think that's pretty much public knowledge by now. But I knew that we would probably be out the next morning, or well, next afternoon by the time they got around to actually letting us out of jail. But I knew we were probably not going to be in jail forever. In theory, we could have been in jail for quite a while. We could have been in jail. We got arrested on a Thursday. So we could have been in jail until a Tuesday because of the holiday weekend.
Do you stay in jail if you can't put up bail?
Well, that no, I mean it can go that way, but the other way it can go is if they just don't do your hearing, because they have a rule. It's a 36-hour rule, but it doesn't include weekends and holidays. So if you get
Oh
arrested
god.
on a Thursday and they don't get your hearing Friday morning, then you could be in until Tuesday.
Ugh, it's like the DMV. It's like any other like sort of public office.
Yeah,
Like
it's so it's it's but I knew that we would probably have our hearing the next day and we would be let go. We weren't charged with any sort of crimes of violence or anything like that. So there wasn't a concern of like going out and murdering people or anything. So they but the other two people didn't know that. Like they've never been through that system or experience. And so like for me, it's like, well, I just have to wait. And for them, they're kind of, really stressing out about it quite a bit.
if it was
The other
me, I'd be like, "Do I have to get my butthole ready for jail?" I would be freaking out. But joke's on you guys, my butthole is ready for jail.
there you go. It's pre-prepped, okay? No, and then the other part is just kind of knowing knowing what to yell at everybody. Like, because you have to yell at the cops. It's a requirement when you go to jail. You have to yell things all the time. Like from your cell, you have to be like, "Hey, yo, where's my sandwich?"
Did you
And
have a mug to clink across the bars?
no, there's no bars there. It's just since
Oh.
county jail is just cement walls and cement
Oh
everything,
God.
and then like sheet metal like appliances, like your toilet sink. It's one thing. It's
Very
like a
industrial
tower.
looking.
Right, it's like a tower of efficiency. It's like a toilet on the bottom and a sink on the top so you can wash your hands while peeing, which is good. You can also get, you can take a sip of your water from the water fountain
I
that's
would
in
hate
there.
that because I'm not a great I won't get graphic. I'm not great at number 2, and certainly like not for an audience. Like if I'm in a cell with somebody else and I'm just basing this on television shows I've seen, but I would
Sure.
not be able to. I would just not go. It would just crawl back up my body and stay there.
So your butthole isn't ready for jail.
I guess not.
No, it's I mean, again, it depends on how long you're in there, but for us, we were only in there overnight. It was not like this long endeavor. It's not fun, don't get me wrong, but there's not like anything to do. If you're there for a longer period of time, you have to worry about stuff like that, but it's really just like, you pee a couple times and then you're
Where does
you're
your
done.
phone go?
Mine was actually still in my car.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
they because if people don't know this, I was not home. I was in my car, and so
Because
my
most people think that you were home, and everyone's like, "Oh, like, they're gonna see them breaking down the door, and everyone's gonna be home," and
yeah, there's a big
fun.
miscommunication about that because they asked me for the code to my door and said they wanted to open the door. People think they did that while I was standing there, but I was away. I was like a half mile to a mile away from my house. And so they asked me for the door code, and I'm like, you just haven't shown me a warrant yet. Like, so I'm not going to give you the code to my door. I said, can we go to my house? Like, just take me there. Like, we'll go to my house, and you can show me the warrant, and I'll let you in. I'm not going to stop them, but they didn't have a warrant on them. They're like, well, we got one. It's just not here. And I don't know if you guys have tried that, but if you try that with the police, they don't believe you. And so if you play a Uno Reversi card on them, they're like, well, we have one. It's like, that's great. Just where is it? And so they said they'd show me, but they didn't until after I had gone to my house and they were already searching it. They had already busted the door down. So there's some misconceptions about that. I was not standing there when they busted the door down. All I did was ask them to show me the fucking warrant that they swore they had. And it's like, just show me the warrant. I'm not cooperating with you. I just don't believe you until you just pull out the piece of paper
So
that
did
you
they
say exists.
call you or find you in your car when you were down the road?
I was driving down the road. I was traveling in my land boat, right? As a sovereign citizen does. No, I was traveling down a road near my house, and I saw this convoy of cars go by, and I thought we were being swatted.
Okay.
So I actually pulled over and I was getting ready to turn around. And then one of the cars peeled off the convoy and came up behind me because it obviously must have recognized my plates. And I was not in my Mustang, just so people know, like it was my Navigator. But so I was driving and, the car pulled off and came up behind me. So then I thought they were going to tell me, hey, we got another swatting call and we were responding to it. It's very serious or something. And I was like, oh, fucking hell. But no, they came up and then asked directly. They're like, I need you to step out of the vehicle for a search. And I'm like, well, that's not how this works, right? Like I'm not going to do that. And then the whole thing started with, well, we have a warrant. It's like, that's fine. Where is it? And well, I don't have it on me. Like, what is there? Are you out of paper? Do you have like a phone you could show me the warrant on? Like anything at all? And they're like,
Screenshot.
we just don't have it. And it's like, how many people do you have all these cop cars? And they literally had one paper copy of the warrant and no electronic copies that they could show me or anything. And I'm sorry, I'm just cautious. I don't consent to searches. I don't consent to anything without just seeing the reason I'm supposed to allow them to do it. And so, you know, like I said, I told him, I'm like, if you just show me the warrant, like you can, you can search me, you can search the house, whatever you want to do. And they didn't until they were, midway through the search. So it was fun, but it's like, it's weird having that happen. But yeah, I was just traveling down the road in my land boat when I was pulled over, and the rules of admiralty, they said didn't apply, but I screamed that they did a whole lot.
Did everyone throughout this whole process with you, did anyone seem sort of like impressed that you knew more? I mean, you know more than the average person, obviously, because of your background.
Or were they annoyed
irritated by it?
They get annoyed. They don't want to get into arguments about Fourth, Fifth, or Sixth Amendment stuff with anybody. One of the problems was that, for the purposes of like just the immediacy of it, effectively, the two other people who were arrested with me, like, were my clients. I mean, they both requested me as their lawyer, and the officers didn't want to let me see them. And it's like, well, I mean, you kind of, they have a right.
Were they afraid that you're going to like give them answers and like tell them what to say and shit?
I think at the time they were treating us all as co-defendants. I think that's changed a little bit now, but they were treating us all as co-defendants. So they thought that I would get them together and like get their stories straight or something. It's like, I don't know how you get the story straight on this kind of charge or whatever, but I think that was their fear. They wanted to talk to us individually. The problem is they asked each of the other two, they asked them if they wanted to talk, and they both said, we want our lawyer. And so they stopped asking the questions. Kudos to them. But as far as for me, like I gave a statement willingly because I wanted to call the cop a pussy a whole bunch. Sorry, I'm kind of an asshole.
You did? You called the cop a pussy?
Yeah.
I'm sure he liked that.
Believe me, that wasn't going to get me in any worse issue than I was in at the time. So it was like, I said, where's your probable cause statement for the warrant? Like they showed me the warrant, which just says they have the warrant to search your house. And I was like, yeah, based on what? And I said, I know your probable cause is bullshit. So show it to me. He's like, oh no, I got it. I got this probable cause. And I'm serious. This is how I was acting. It was funny. He's like, I got your probable cause. I was like, yeah, sure. Where is it then, you pussy? Like, it's bullshit. So that was fun, having a nice exchange with another citizen.
Yeah, of course. So I want to know who, and of course you, like, before we were recording, I was like, oh, and I was like, who's gotten it wrong of all the coverage? And then you were like, well, I'm not sitting home watching everybody who's covering me. And I was like, of course, right.
I'm not watching any coverage of me. What I have watched is very limited to basically Robert Barnes did a video talking about hair follicle testing and stuff like that. It's a really interesting video. He has some of the facts wrong in there. Nothing like super crazy or whatever about it, but it's just an interesting video about hair follicle testing. I'm not going to say whether or not it applies to my case or not. People should, though, just check out what he says, because it's a really it's a thought-provoking discussion about the nature of testing and how the state utilizes testing. That whole discussion is useful for anyone curious about the legal system. I was curious what he had to say about it in relation to my case. His video is not making it into my trial, so it doesn't really matter. As far as other stuff, I really haven't watched it. I don't. Most people don't know enough to make a fully fleshed out opinion on the legal matters. And that's how, that is not a knock on anybody. Just so everybody's clear. That's how all of us operate when we're doing the law tube thing. We don't know the facts except for what's presented and what we can like try and infer by reading between the lines. So like people do their coverage, whether it's good or bad is irrelevant to me, because unless they have some interesting novel legal theory, that's a legal theory and not an evidence-based theory, it's not going to be that useful. So it's much more helpful for me to just go over my own case, review the discovery documents I have, talk to my attorney about what we're going to do and stuff like that.
And the part you mentioned about Barnes talking about hair follicle testing, that's because what, like they tested your kids for drugs and there something came up on one of their hair or something like that. And I didn't understand, like, how does that even get into somebody's hair?
That's a really, really good question. And the hard part is the internet goes with this weird theory that like someone was dosing my child with a drug. They blame me, of course.
It looks a lot like dry shampoo. That's what I figured. I use dry shampoo all the time instead of washing my hair.
Look, I have no idea about that. What I don't know is how that test result came to be. And there's a lot of ways that a test result can come to be that have nothing to do with taking drugs. And this is, again, if you want a good exploration of like the problems with hair follicle testing in specific, go watch the Barnes video. Don't sit and listen to me. Like I could talk quite a bit about it now. I've done a ton of research on catching up on the literature for it, how the legal world treats it, what you would have to do to challenge all of it. The reality is whether or not we end up challenging it and how our cases go. And there's no real indication right now of what that looks like in specificity. Not enough for me to comment anyway. So, but you can go watch it. But the answers for how cocaine gets in a hair follicle test range from someone's doing cocaine to someone is exposed to cocaine through some sort of environmental condition. And that environmental condition doesn't necessarily mean in the environment. If we take it out of cocaine, for example, and we go into meth, people who smoke meth in a house, there's meth in the air. There's like actual meth fumes, and those can be absorbed into hair follicles. And so what you have is in places where, the smoking of a drug takes place, especially children can have, detection because it literally gets into their skin on their head and into the hair follicle and then grows into the hair that way. We're not accused of anything like that. We're not accused of our child ingesting cocaine. We're not accused of actually anything involving that at all. Our accusation, our charge in the criminal case is literally the presence of a controlled substance where minor children live. That's the extent of the charge. So, it's people on the internet come up with like crazy theories about it and stuff like that. But, we know the truth about it. We know that our child was not ingesting cocaine. That's a very,
if they were, they would have been getting so much more homework done, cleaning their home.
They'd probably have, like, again, hair follicle numbers are really tough, but you could imagine that they would go to a hospital, like that there would be some sort of medical record of that. And there it just isn't any. There's nothing like that. There's no witness to that. This isn't a claim the state is making. The state has their evidence and they're not claiming it. This is purely an internet fiction. And, that's fine. The internet only has what information they have. I'm not begrudging people for it. I do think it's a little ludicrous that people like assume that that's what was going on, but it's the internet and they assume that everybody's insane because most of us are, honestly.
So other than Barnes, what other law tubers do you think have been fair, or you're not, you don't know enough?
I really don't watch. Like I just don't. There's no profit for me in it. And I mean, like the information is useless to me for most people. They're going to make claims and speculations and try and explain aspects of the law. And that's great, but I don't need that done. Like I have me and then I have my lawyer and we discuss, we discuss what's going on based on the facts that we actually know, based on the discovery that's out there. And the discovery is pretty interesting. I can't talk about it right now, but at some point, maybe I'll get to disclose more. But it's when you actually get into the case and see what the state has, you go, okay.
What for human beings, just generally?
No.
Garfield again. Nick has stated he wants all trials to be televised and fully transparent. Will Nick advocate for the television treatment of his own potential trial?
It's not really up to me on whether or not the trial is televised and fully transparent. I've talked about it a lot, and I do think that transparency is the default mode that we should go for in these things. So I do think there are places where we want to protect certain people or certain aspects of trials for sure. I've never actually said fully transparent. For example, testimony of minors about, things that may have happened to them in cases of like child sexual abuse and stuff like that. I don't really think that that's a thing that needs to be televised, but all of that is premised on the basic concept that people used to be skeptical of the state. And that was the whole purpose of transparency of the courts. It comes from the English Star Court system, the Star Chamber, where you went to court under the king's law, and the king's lawyers made their case against you, and they made it in private, and no one got to know what or why. The reason was not to protect the person. The reason was to protect the accusations of the crown. The crown's accusations were not able to be measured by the public. When we created the American legal system, the idea was that accusations and trials would be open and notorious so the public could make sure that tyranny wasn't happening. That's kind of changed lately, but I still believe in the underlying concept. Again, the nature of how law has changed and how sort of accusations have changed over the years. There are certain places where maybe it's not appropriate. Again, like if a 5-year-old is testifying about sexual abuse, like we probably don't want that to be just broadcast to the world and to have that follow the child around. Right. Like that. I just think that maybe is one of those reasonable accommodations we can make. But generally speaking, sure.
From Kate McKnight. Nick, if there are issues with the warrant, why not sign the release for the body cam footage? Nothing but love to Chrissie.
People have a misunderstanding about the body cam footage and a release. I haven't seen a release for the body cam footage. The body cam footage right now, I believe, is considered confidential information as it's part of an investigation. And so under the Minnesota Government Data Practices Act, a body cam footage cannot be released even to me, except as part of discovery. So there isn't like a go sign a release. Like I don't have the ability to authorize the release of the body cam footage, nor does anybody else involved in it at this time. That would be when it moves from confidential information to private information. I believe then, I'm not an expert in this area of law. I've never had to deal with it, but I believe at that point, people could sign releases and have it released. If someone was told that they were going to get access to the body cam footage prior to that occurring, they were probably not told the truth. But there's not like, the state has not sent me a thing like sign this to like release the body cam footage. They've never asked me. It's never been brought up to me in any sort of way. So people have this idea. It's like, oh, Nick, just go sign the release. Like, well, like what release? Sorry, like legitimately, I think people may have misread the statute on how this works, but I don't know. I haven't read the statute either, but no one's presented me with the opportunity to do so.
Okay. Thank you, Kate.